Hello and welcome to another episode of the Crimson Podcast. My name is Charlie Quinn, joined today by Julian Bonk and our two wonderful guests, Mr. Taesler and Mr. Lapine. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, to start, what inspired your guys' passion for music, and why do you feel that teaching music to the next generations is so important?
When I was in high school, one of the very only things that inspired me to really be involved in anything was doing music classes. So I wanted to go and find any children in schools that are lost and don't have a cause or know what they want to do, and I wanted to show them what music could do for them and bring them to the forefront. That's kind of what got me on board with teaching music to begin with.
For me, I never had music in school until I got to high school, but I had always been involved in music as a kid, outside, piano lessons and things. But I never started singing formally until high school, and I had my plans to go pre-med after high school, and I had a great high school choir teacher that kind of changed that for me, and I became a music major.
So are you looking to do the same thing to your students to try to...
You know what I think is really important is helping students understand that their life doesn't have to be one-dimensional. They don't just have to do one thing. They can do myriad things, but they can do them within the sense of who they are. And so just because someone is a doctor or someone works in finance or banking, it doesn't mean that they can't also be a musician. It doesn't mean that they can't also still make music. And my goal is to create lifetime learners. I want people to make music for the rest of their lives in some way, shape, or form and pass it down to their kids and their families. To me, that's more important than a kid necessarily majoring in music. But if that is someone's calling, I want them to know that that door is open to them. So,
yeah, and if one of our listeners is kind of feeling that they wish their life could be more than this one dimension that you mentioned, do you have a piece of advice for them as if they were to choose to follow a career, or not even a career, but maybe learn an instrument, start taking vocal lessons?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest barriers in that for most people is the financial aspect of it, right? You want to take private lessons, instrumental lessons, voice lessons, something like that. There is a cost to it. Participating in a school band, orchestra, choir, there's no cost to it above just the small little things and ancillary things, but you can get that experience without cost at a public high school. Like what better experience is that? So I say for kids, if you have any interest, get involved. Find a way to be involved and get involved in the music program, in the arts program, in theater, in dance. If your school has a dance program, explore things, try things. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you love music, you come and you do choir and you realize, that's not for me. But maybe you feel like you want to learn the saxophone. Maybe that's more of your calling. Then great, go do that. Be part of something and make music.
I completely agree. Most of it, for me, has to come with the enjoyment. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you probably shouldn't continue to do it because you're just going to suffer in the activity. If you're finding that you are in the middle of any group or activity that you feel like you're not growing in, you need to go find something else to do. Because if you're not growing in it, you're not going to help others grow in it, and everything's just going to start falling behind.
Yeah, you start pulling down the people around you as well, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen it before in classes where all it takes is a couple of people that clearly might not want to be there, and then it kind of spreads throughout the class. Whereas you can have a totally separate class and everyone's enthusiastic about it. It completely changes everything. The music making's better, the camaraderie's better, the experience is better. So find some place that you enjoy and pursue. And don't do it because it fills up a college resume, though, yeah, it does, but do it because that's where you feel like you have enjoyment, where you have a passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So after kids do begin their music career, professionals will say that it takes hundreds or thousands of hours to really perfect the craft. So how do you enable kids to commit to their craft and continue to practice for all those hours to really become great?
You have to teach them time management skills, and music classes are a great place to learn time management skills. I require students to log their practices weekly. It's part of their grade. I recognize that a lot of students here at the Somerset Hills School District do an awful lot after school. They have tons of homework to do. So the actual standard for learning any kind of music is maybe about an hour of practice at home. I personally understand that with everything that everybody's doing, that's not necessarily realistic here. So I say, okay, I want you to practice for X amount of time for the week. And I say it's somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour or more. And it doesn't have to be at home. It could be, my room is usually open during lunch. If I'm in there, I let students come in and practice. They could log that information. But this is teaching them how to manage their time. And if they can learn how to manage their time, this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, all the things you can learn from music. Music can teach you not just being a musician, but it teaches you that time management skill. If you can set aside the time to practice and hone that craft any amount of time, you can grow into being a musician, or really grow into being anything.
Yeah, but let's be honest, 15 minutes to 60 minutes a week of doing something.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to cut it at the professional level, of course.
That's not going to help you hone your craft to being an artisan, right? If you want to be a true artisan at anything, you need to do it until you've really mastered it. And even for me as a professional musician, I would say that I'm still growing and I'm still learning. And as a dad and as a teacher, I just don't have the number of hours in a day to be able to put into practicing my own craft the way that I would need to continue my growth. That takes hours and hours a day, and that isn't something that most people can do in today's society. It's just not, right? So what we're looking for as teachers is, are you doing something to help propel your growth, right? Yeah.
And if you can measure that in music, you can find a way to measure it in anything. And thus, you can grow in anything.
Yeah, so changing the subject a little more to what BHS has to offer musically, if a student is signing up for one of your classes, what can they really expect across the year?
Well, in concert band classes, I teach everybody all the fundamentals for performing their instruments. We test that performance at concerts. We do 2 a year. We do one in the winter. We do one in the spring. The winter ones are meant to be more of the fun, laid-back kind of music, wintry themes, not always Christmas, not always Hanukkah, but something that you would hear around the holiday season. The Jazz Ensemble, for example, is performing My Favorite Things from The Sound of Music. Not exactly Christmas or holiday music, but you hear it on the radio during the holidays. So it's all topical, typical music you would hear during the time. And in the spring is when we've now reached all of our lesson points for the year. Now we're going to play the really complicated music, and we're going to see just what we've achieved throughout the whole rest of the year. That's what I offer in the classes. I also direct the marching band. And in marching band, it's all about bolstering school spirit. It's about getting together. It's about playing music that's going to get everybody riled up for achieving excellence at an athletic event. In this case, it's football. And we love supporting the football team. We love just getting together with everybody and enjoying that culture together and putting on that kind of music for the marching arts at other competitions and festivals.
Yeah, and choir classes are very similar to what Mr. Taesler mentioned with concert band, and I'm sure orchestra is similar.
Yes, and orchestra.
One of the other things for me is, whereas in an instrumental class, the sound is being made by an inanimate object, an instrument, right? In choir classes, the sound is actually coming from the students, from the human being, and that is very personal. And for me, there's an additional level and component of helping people find their own voice. And philosophically, that's a pretty deep conversation, helping people find their voice and make it heard. And for some kids, they're not willing to really explore that. There's a level of depth there that can be really intimidating and scary. But that's another barrier that we try to cross. But we also have music tech classes for kids who want to create musically, who want to learn how to edit stuff, edit recorded sound, edit MIDI, so digital instrument sounds, who want to learn how to compose without necessarily knowing notation. And then we also have music theory classes, music theory musicianship classes for kids who want to understand music in a very different kind of more academic, analytical way. And I absolutely love the music theory classes here at school and the music tech classes. I think they're a great place for kids who are in ensembles, but also kids who maybe never took a music class. You know, I've taken kids with tons of musical experience and kids with no musical experience. And when it comes to music theory, musicianship, and also music tech, they're kind of at a similar level. They're all starting from the ground up all over again. Even if they know the information, I'm filling in gaps in different ways. And so I highly recommend those classes. Other opportunities include the theater program at school. Don't forget how important the theatrical arts are. And, you know, taking the fall play or the spring musical, for example, it's not just an opportunity for kids to learn how to act or dance or sing on stage. It's also an opportunity for kids who love doing tech and who love messing around with sound and microphones and speakers and recording equipment, who enjoy figuring out lighting design, and lighting can completely change a show. And we have that whole new lighting system now in the pack, and sound microphone and audio system in the pack. We have the opportunity for kids to do costuming, to learn how do they fit kids for costumes, but how do they find costumes that help fit the theme of a show? Building the set, designing the set, that involves construction, that involves the stuff they would learn in a woodshop class. Painting the set, props, stage manager. I mean, there are so many opportunities for kids of all different skill levels and ability levels and interest levels to get involved in the shows. I think that we should have half of the school involved in all of our productions. Why? Because they can be, and they can do it in a way that they feel passionate about.
It's a really interesting point. So back to your point about the shows and performances, take us through the preparation for a typical performance and maybe even a preview of this year's winter performance.
Yeah, so for me, it starts the year before. You know, you get an idea of what your classes will look like next year. And then I start planning the repertoire, so the concert selections based around who I know the students will be in the class. That has to come first. I need to know what the voicings are, what the skill level is of the students. And then I can start picking music. And that might change throughout the year as I get to know the individual classes, especially with incoming freshmen or new students. You never know. I'm assuming you do it a very similar way, right? With instrumentation and
yes.
ability?
It is in a very much the similar vein. In the realm of instruments, however, we are not always blessed with a balanced ensemble. And sometimes the schedule lands that I have to split up my instrumentation. So right now, just as an example, I have all my clarinets in only one of the two concert band classes. So that part will never be heard by the other concert band class. And that makes it a little hard to kind of prepare the music. But like Mr. Lapine was saying, select the music the year before. I usually I gauge it based on how many freshmen I'm going to have coming in. I have 37 freshmen this year in all of my core ensemble classes. So I needed to make sure, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I've got the music that everybody can start reading off of the very bad at the beginning. And sometimes I go ahead and I pick music that I'm like, this might be a little too hard. Let's see what they can do with it. Test them early. See if they're hungry to try to learn something new. And in this case, this year, I'm actually finding that myself pleasantly surprised that everybody's rising up to the challenge and the occasion. But then once the winter concert's over, I can really start to gauge, all right, that's the midterm level. What can we do for the coming year? And then at the end of the winter season, I'll start doing basically the same process. Or actually, I even have a couple of the spring repertoire selected because we're going to bring one or two of them to Florida on our next Disney trip in March.
Cool.
Yeah, so it seems like both programs, you guys are really set for the future, like you're ready and you have a plan. Could you bring us maybe some more information about what you each plan to do in, next school year, maybe the next 5 school years?
So we started a new choir curriculum this year. We've revamped the choirs. Madrigal stayed where it is, but we've created chorale, which is another honors level class that while it's also audition like Madrigal's is, but with Madrigal's there's a limited number of spots. For chorale, There's an unlimited number of spots, but it's based on a standard. When they audition, do they meet a certain standard? And this year there are 44 students in chorale, which is great for our first year. And then we have 2 choral foundations classes, which are non-audition, primarily freshmen, but it's not just freshmen. Anyone who hasn't sung in the school before. And they come in and they start building the skills to move up into those honors level ensembles. And I think that, the first year is always difficult, but the direction that things are going right now, I think that we're situated in a really good place to continue to develop from what comes in from the 2 middle schools to our school. Would you feel the same way?
Yes, I completely agree. In fact, Instrumental is looking to kind of do the same thing. Right now, I have an honors orchestra class and a accelerated orchestra class, and it's going to be the same approach where students will have to meet a standard to reach the honors orchestra class. Concert band doesn't have anything quite like that yet. It's in the works. I'm talking with administration to get that all set up, and once it does, it's going to mirror a lot of what you're doing. And then the jazz ensemble will be akin to your madrigals. But I go a step further. I have to go down. I frequently go down to the middle school to visit Mr. Snyder to advertise everything that instrumental programs have available up here, because I don't know about you, but I actually lose a fair amount of 8th graders coming into the freshman level. I got very lucky this year having a big freshman class. So we try to meet that ahead by I go down and I go, hi, this is who I am. This is how I teach. If you like this sort of thing, please continue doing it when you are asked what kind of classes you want to take in December when you come up here to become a freshman. And we've been doing that for a few years now, and it's been showing some good promise.
Smart. Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on the podcast. That will do it for this episode of the Crimson Podcast. Special thanks to Mr. Taesler and Mr. Lapine for taking time out of their day to join us today. And as always, we'll see you next time.